So I will start a video and I'm going to talk about this last drawing I did, which is again always um, your thought, because the reason you're here is a thought to be here. So then how did that thought happen and where did it come from? As always, it's just the building of a plane, right? A place for that thought to exist. And in the video, you'll see that I had built it up to this and then started over. What that represents is the idea of a thought coming, like the fleeting idea. Something came to your head, then it just went away. You can't remember. It's that thought forgotten, and then it just disappears, right? And then you start all over again. So that's what that part of the video is about. Moving into then what happens upon this plane or this open mind is that thought appears. All right. Now, again, remember that thought is always going to be a doorway in the end into a place that is going to change your existence if you let it. All right. So now you have to examine. So you saw then that the red, or the idea of concern, first enters into the picture, the idea of taking that bite. All right. Then, of course, you have the blue, the law, because with every bite comes the reaction, or the echo. So with the clap, there's an echo. There has to be. So then that reflection, which is now starting to be built, is going to be that reflection in your mind of what this idea point, or what it represents, or at least the trail that it's going to start to lead you down. And do you see how that point is then starting to manifest? And that point, as you can see, is a creation in itself, because within the reflection it's causing itself and it's casting a shadow. Okay, so it has mass. Right? Then a second point appears. That's the idea of the 1, 2. What happens when you add the 1, 2? The idea of falling into the 3, or the ring, right? So that concern, that red builds up, it bursts, and that's when the music changes. The reason being is because you brought this bell tone in. You brought the bell. You brought the 3. You brought time into it, because now you're going to invest time. And in order for time to be spent, this bell is going to have to be given reason to exist, meaning it's going to have to be given a ground to play on. All right. So then, as this ground is being built, because this is, of course, the idea of a thought, or the thought of an idea. So just that split second, this happens every single time. So this is just stripping down the thought to what I told you was the code of creation, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. You are the 1 and the 0. You are the idea of, do I pick this thing up and run with it, or do I leave it alone? When you pick it up to run with it, you are actually speaking about a mechanical existence, because your body is physically going to run with it because you are consuming it. That becomes your meat, the reason for your existence, while you fall under the spell of what is being conjured in the magic mirror of your mind. Now remember, I told you had the 1, 2, 3, the 4. Now this is a 5th point being presented to you. What's interesting about the 5th point is this is now where you're starting to move from the physical, which is your 5 senses, the idea that you can see, smell, taste, touch, hear, right? That then is going to be melded into a spiritual mind, or what you can see beyond the physical. Okay? Because do you see that while the 5th point is in a position to where you can almost see the square or the cube or the idea being formed, it's not quite there, so you still need one more engagement point. and that is the idea of the 6. That is the idea of now you have a fully functioning, contained idea within your reflected window, meaning this now, let me bring it up. This now is going to be what you present to the mind, to the Zion. All right. Do you see that? That's the idea of the 7 code. Yeah, I've talked about that for many, many years now. People are still stuck on the idea that they see the 7 and they see the 7 code and the 777 code, but and much like the crowd that sees the 33 everywhere. Yes, they're all there, but do you now know what that means? Okay, everything compounds. Therefore, if you know that, you must then reduce. Okay, once you've reduced, you've gotten to the root. Therefore, this cubed idea is now ready to be presented to. This would be basically your conscience. This is what you can actually see right now in front of you. This is what, okay, I can see that, I can see this. You can put your fingers on it. The next stage, as it moves into the 7, 8, 9, and then it's basically at the idea of the 10, it's going to ask you, do you want to continue with this? It's like a choose your own adventure. If you choose to hand it one more ticket, that one, you go back for the ride again. It becomes your 911. Or if you just say, give it the big goose egg, say no more, I'm out, the big 0, this then just disappears. It becomes a blank space again. All right, just so you know that. But now this is going to develop now. So let's look at how this develops, because it's not just the idea that it's developing, it's actually that you can look at it. Because as time creases it, it's going to make some changes. And I want to bring you in now and take a look at some of the changes, especially in the areas of the green. Now take a look, if you might, just take a look at well, you can start up here in the blue. The blue, if you want to just look at maybe like a light coming from the top, and you see the idea of a rainbow type shading coming across the land. All right, this is maybe a boiling sea or an empty desert, being that in this type of shade they could look the same. These could be either man-made walls or cliffs leading onto rocks. There's a nice 77 right here, just the way things work out, right? That's kind of the idea of the physical land. But then you move into the idea of the red, or the concern. You see how it resembles arteries, veins, capillaries, the idea of a heart, because then through the blue and the red, that's the idea of your heart in this system. But you can see how the idea of the veins and how it resembles a living thing is created. All right. So now this idea is much more than just a thought. It's now going to take your life from you. It's presented to you in this top part of the egg with the physical view, whether it be sea, desert, or out in the lush hills and valleys and mountains. But then within internally, it is the idea of your heart and it being built. And this is even more detailed, as now you can see it. If you look into it, you can see it's actually a 3-dimensional space. Now that this place, this thought, is now going to come into existence, into your life for real. It's going to be brought into life by you, by your concern. Okay. Do you see now that we have the first tear, which looks like the horseman, or the idea of the revelation? All right. Now, because now that world, being that world is a fantasy, it has to fail. So then you have the revelation. And now next you have the idea of the Zion, or the tomahawk. All right. The Zion now shatters that. That shattered glass either impales itself into your mind as this truth now that you believe, that you will then go chase 1,000 and 1,000,000 stars, because it's nothing more than a kaleidoscope and a lie. Or you will see that it was in fact a fallen, broken thing that is not to be put back together again, because it doesn't matter. Okay, so you can see that. You can see how that world is now collapsing because it was just fake. It looked good. It looked like it actually had depth, but you can see now that it's all phony. You can't see anything in here anymore. Once it's been cracked, the illusion's gone. Okay? So moving forward, as it breaks apart, it must then exist in this place. So as you move into the 7, 8, 9, you are now bringing it into physical existence because it will exist in the plane, this playing field that you exist on. So then look how this shadow creates as your eye is opened more to that reality, or that one eye, that single idea, how this is then fed by what people then call the beast, or what I call just the news. It's called directions. It's the compass. It starts with the north. You can see it there, right? You can see it right there. And I also want you to pay attention here to the center of this pod, because once the 3, all right, so you have news, and now you have the 3 being rang. Also, do you see how it resembles the woman? Because the 3 is the idea of the concern. All right. So then you move forward. Once the 3 comes into the mind as really residing in more the temporal area, meaning where you are actually physically starting to act, you see these 3 lines in the pod are created. Those 3 red lines. Those 3 red lines, please keep an eye on this area. It's going to create a headless body. That headless body is what's going to attach to the Who man that you see beyond this reflection in a few moments. There's an entire existence beyond here that you will then be thrust into in your little capsule. Okay? Because your little capsule, do you see the little body? Look at the body in the center. See how it's growing? Okay, see how it's forming and growing, because now we're adding the W, all right, NEW, the idea of the double 7s. Do you see that with the illumination? All right, do you see how the body's grown even more as the shadows brought into the system? Do you see? The man then is brought into existence by the S's, the details, the snake. Right? Do you see the serpent? This is where actually the little clown of existence tinkles on you, quite literally, tinkles on you. That light, remember that little capstone that's missing? Because here's an important thing. Every time they show you a so-called pyramid that has no top on it, that is not a pyramid. That is an oblong cube. You must see the difference in that. They are showing you a 6-sided cube. They're not showing you a pyramid. It must have a point to be a pyramid. If it's an oblong cube, you're speaking about something completely different. You're speaking about this. You're speaking about this cube, this fallen idea, or this lie, which is being brought into your mind through the electrical existence of this place, because you live in a wet cell, electromagnetic place. This creation is that. So this is all happening, all right? This happens in the environment, within the humidity of your existence, okay? So you see that, and the multiple snakes are brought out, and then your astral body, your asshole body is then thrust. You see it right there. You see it right there. Fully defined now with just out a head. Now you're going to have a head put on you, all right? Because now you're going up into the Zion. Remember, this is just that thought. This happens that quick every single time, because you're feeding yourself off the details, all these little snakes. All right? You see how each one of these then becomes you. That's you now. This is now your subconscious reflecting on what your conscience just saw. So now you're saying, who am I going to believe? So you start to become like this little Nazi character. It's funny, but it's true. You become like this little Nazi character because you're locked into your little beliefs. So no one's going to, piss on your garden without you first observing and saying, okay, because you are your own God. And check this out. You're going to become your own light bearer in this example. You're going to start bobbing and weaving with the waves of this existence, this fallen place, this idea that you brought into creation through that astral body. You saw you brought it with you, but it brought in with it the fallen liar. because you brought that snake yourself into the garden. So now it's going to start to then corrupt you. Okay, now the serpent then has corrupted the system. It has brought the system into the lie. Okay. Okay, with this next video, okay, I am recording. Okay, with this is going to be part 2. So now recall back, if you will. I guess I can show you. Hold on, now within here, so within this capsule, this is also, do you see how you have this is going to be your body, quite literally fed from these details, all right, and put forward into the next place. Now through this reflection, no lie can travel. So you have to say, how does this then get through there? And that's through what is called your free will, because that was not taken from you when you were reborn in Christ. So it allowed you to take that. I'm going to show you how that manifests in here, because that capsule, that body, also think of it as a cocoon. So how then does that lie get into this perfect existence, the temple, which your one job is to guard it against lies? That's your one job. All right. Be free in Christ. You were brought into all knowledge through the Comforter. All right. So then you see this astral body then, right? The asshole body then magnetizes, and it's starting to then bring up through the matrix right here. You can see it starting to bring something. That something is the serpent or the lie. Okay? It starts also as something small. What looks to be like, what is that, a tadpole? Or what, a snake possibly? Right? It dips the concern, the limelight, into your higher mind, the idea of that your temple where you were supposed to guard. See, when that reflection glass broke, that was that warning in your head that you says, there's something not right about that. But instead, most people then just move right past that warning sign, that broken glass. They move right past it, and they smuggle this liar into their temple, and they defile their own mind with this lie by their own free will. Do not let anybody fool you. You can only lie to yourself. Now, this is going to be your self-reflection, looking upon the landscape of your mind. And you are going to act as if you are powerless. And what happens is, before you know it, this who man, the idea of the one with the colored ears of law and so-called love, will then be trapped within the Grandmaster's hat. He will become the rabbit in the hat. He will become the squirrel in the hat. He will become the joke in the hat, the number in the hat. You will see that form. All right. So anyways, when he brings this in, you see right here the 777 idea. I told you about that. That's the lightning bolt. That's then going to bring into existence a place for this serpent to live. It brings in the idea of the tree. All right. Then that smuggled idea, remember I told you about that smuggled idea, manifests itself in your temple as a butterfly. That butterfly is looking for something. It has decided that it cannot rest and be still in Christ and just learn the truth. It has to go out seeking where it shouldn't be seeking. So it's going to be susceptible to something that's about to happen. And that is the serpent sending out its venom, its ideas into you. And of course, the 9 fingers coming up and over you and grabbing you, capturing you, taking you in. Do you see how your charge is now discharging into the 9, or the idea of the tet, or the offensive information? It's now just feeding off the serpent in the idea of the 8. So then it just gets recycled and fed back to you. Okay, do you see that? And you're still all the while just up here, da-dee-da, sinking under the water. Watch, because you sink up and down in the water. All right? Look. Blip, 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 up, blip, blip, blip. Right? Act like you have no control over your mind being taken prisoner by the liar, and you do. Just stop falling for it. But anyways, it continues because this is right now. This is this quick. This is happening. Okay? So then what happens is now you're being taken up. You're going to be taken up because now this has made contact. You have actually bought it. Now you're being taken up into the whirlwind. All right? That whirlwind becomes magnetized. Do you see how it has Saturn's ring, Satan's ring? The idea that you become a tree. You are formed into a tree in this garden, in the garden of the serpent. You become a tree. You become this little Hitler-looking reflected man. Notice here, from here on out, that the nose area and the bottom of the face is going to look as if it's reflecting, as if his mouth is underwater. That is because you are underwater. You are under the water and the influence of the liar. Do you see how this hat now looks like it's upside down? It looks like a bell. It can look like a top hat. It can look like a record, because all of those mean the same thing. It is just if you start at one end and you go around, you're going to wind up right where you started from again. It's all representing the fallen system. Do you see how now the system collapses in on itself? Because at some point this 9/11 event happens and you swallow what you believe to be a truth, and you become a new creature. Do you see how the entire head is now swallowed, and now a what I told you in the first video, there's not a pyramid, but there is an oblong cube, which is reflecting what looks to be a path opening, and an opening here to get out. That is where you should be going. If you ever fall into one of these hoax lies, there's always a way out. All right. And that is through Jesus Christ. You were saved out of this fallen system. You were given new life, and you don't fall for it. But anyways, that system now got blocked. Did you see? It was a way out for a moment. For just a moment, there was a way out. You could have stopped fighting the waves, but you didn't. So you swallowed it, boom. It gets shut again with the color of concern, and now you are going to, guess what? That whole system is going to become you. Now that becomes your hat. Do you see how it went from your whole head, now your hat? That's what you wear around town. That's what you dress up as. That's the character you pretend to be here. All right? That's what that means. All right, then you sink away into oblivion. Just don't wear the hat of this dump. Plus, it looks a little, doesn't look very good.